Okay, are we ready to, oh, we have,
Are we good?
we have a quorum.
He says he's 5 minutes late.
Okay.
He's got his text.
Should we get going? Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. Oh, okay.
That's Braden who's replacing, got an email from Sarah that she's been promoted.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
It's going. Okay, we're good to go. We're good to go.
Okay, all right, welcome. Happy New Year. Okay, let's get the meeting going. So first we'll do the roll call.
Commission Chair Kramer,
Present?
Commission Vice Chair O'Connor,
Here.
Commissioner Parker,
Here.
Commissioner Switzler,
Here.
Commissioner Bruner,
Here.
and Commissioner Wick is running a little bit late, but I will let everybody know when he comes in. Let the record show that we have a quorum with 5 commissioners present.
Okay, and then let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, and I guess we'll wait for our Commissioner Wick to.
Commissioner Wick is present.
Okay, great. Any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay, any oral communications?
Yes, we have one speaker, Peggy Walker, regarding vape disposal.
Thank you for all you do. I'm Peggy Walker with San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth, and I come with 2 issues that I would like to ask you to consider in the new year. The first one is vaping. At San Diego Alliance, we are acutely aware of the health problems of vaping, but I ask you to consider the complex environmental and disposable challenges of vaping. 3 issues. From the entire life cycle of vaping, from producing through exposure, it is an environmental hazard and challenge. Vapes are made of microplastic, so that's a problem. The e-liquid and the lithium-ion batteries are both hazardous waste disposable problems. Second, there's a high prevalence of single-use vapes. So what we've created with vaping is a throwaway culture. And there aren't designated receptacles. So people use them, one use, toss them, they end up on streets, they get into the water system where they contaminate soil and wildlife, or they end up in the ocean, which we don't want. So millions of vapes end up in landfills, adding to an already extreme plastic waste and toxic waste crisis. So third, we would really like to see vapes banned. I don't know if this would happen, but I would ask you to consider perhaps what we call an extended producer responsibility program, whereby either the manufacturer or the retailer, or both of them together, take responsibility for the vapes from the beginning to waste disposal. And that is detailed, but if you are interested in hearing more about that, I'd be glad to share information with you. The second topic I wanted to address is smoke-free multi-unit housing. We at San Diego Alliance are working on this. I know it's on your work plan, and thank you so much. I hope it's something you'll address this year. And I want to share this newsletter that we have put together about smoke-free, the importance of smoke-free multi-unit housing. And included on this, a survey of more than 300 MUH residents in our region showed overwhelming support for smoke-free MUH ordinances. So I want to share this That's it. Thank you so much for your time and for waiting.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we have no presentation. And now we go to approval of minutes. So looks like we have 3 different meeting minutes to approve: October 9th, the regular Environmental Commission meeting, and then the joint special meeting on November 4th. I think that was with the Urban Forest Advisory Committee on the native plant ordinance. And then November 13th, that was also with the Urban Forest Advisory Committee, and that was the mature tree ordinance. So I will make a motion to approve those meeting minutes, since I was at all 3 of those meetings. Does anyone that was at those meetings want to second that?
I left early of one.
I can second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thanks. And then informational item. Okay, looks like we have Ryan Lampkin updating us on local energy and green building codes. Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Ryan Lampkin. I'm the city's sustainability analyst, and I'm excited to share with you all a building efficiency and decarbonization update this evening. So building decarbonization is the process of replacing all natural gas appliances in a building with all electric appliances. The city's climate action plan drives building decarbonization policy with measures BE1 through BE4, all calling for various building efficiency and building decarbonization actions. And that's because buildings account for nearly 40% of greenhouse gas emissions in Encinitas, with those emissions coming from natural gas consumption and non-renewable electricity generation. And the idea is that as buildings are made all electric and they're supplied with 100% renewable electricity, buildings will be zero emissions. And in California, we have a statewide code or standard for energy efficiency and green building that's also helping to drive building decarbonization. And all development throughout California is required to comply with the statewide energy and green building codes. So that applies to new construction, additions and alterations, ADUs, even something as small as a water heater replacement has to comply with the state energy code. And you could see in the graphic on the left, the brown area is the emission reductions that we see from the 2025 energy and green building codes. So in addition to the statewide code, cities like the city of Encinitas has the opportunity to adopt an energy and green building standard that goes beyond what the state has. And the aim of that is to further emission reductions in buildings. And again, in the graphic, you could see in the blue with adopting that REACH code, there's further emission reductions. And in Encinitas, we've adopted REACH codes since 2015, many of which have been aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. However, Assembly Bill or AB 130 which was recently passed, has limited the city's ability to adopt REACH codes in the future. So AB 130 was made law on June 30th, 2025, and it prevents the city from adopting residential-related REACH codes between October 1st, 2025 and June 1st, 2031, with limited exceptions for being able to do so. And as you could see, there was a very short window between when the law was passed and when the moratorium on residential REACH codes took effect on October 1st. The stated intent of this state law is to reduce housing construction costs, and as such, non-residential buildings aren't affected, meaning that at any time during this 6-year moratorium, we can adopt REACH codes for non-residential buildings. However, there are, like I said, still exceptions in the law that may allow the city in the future to adopt residential REACH codes. And so this graphic here shows what the adoption process for a REACH code looks like under Assembly Bill 130. So starting at the top, we have what I was talking about, the statewide California building standards code with the energy code and the green building code, which drive emission reductions. And that's required to be adopted by every city throughout the state and be enforced by every city. And that had an effective date of January 1st, 2026. And so the opportunity to adopt and develop REACH codes under AB 130 depends on the building type. So with non-residential buildings, like I said, they're not affected by AB 130. We could adopt REACH codes related to non-residential buildings at any time during the 6-year freeze on REACH codes. And with residential buildings, there's 2 pathways for adopting a REACH code. So now that the moratorium has gone into effect, we would have to leverage one of those exceptions or conditions that I was talking about. And we've seen some other cities start to do this throughout the state, and we've reviewed the conditions, and it does seem like there's an opportunity in the future when if city council chooses to adopt any REACH codes, that would have to be a part of the adoption and in the preamble of the ordinance. And then the other pathway, which was to adopt REACH codes before the moratorium took effect on October 1st. And so the City Council on September 24th, 2025 did decide to go forward and readopt the city's existing REACH codes that we had in effect under the 2022 building code cycle to the extent possible for the new 2025 building code cycle, which took effect this year. So I wanted to update the commission on those REACH codes, which were readopted in September. So the first REACH code is related to electric readiness, and this requires all new single-family homes that were constructed with gas furnaces to prepare the exterior pad where the air conditioning unit is for future replacement with an electric heat pump system. And so that involves, of course, having it be electric ready, but also installing drainage for that heat pump system, the condensate liquid drainage. And this is to incentivize developers to go all electric in the first place. The next REACH code is related to existing building energy efficiency, and this requires single-family and multifamily additions and alterations with a permit valuation of $50,000 or greater to install at least one of a list of several energy efficiency measures. And in the graphic, you could see all of the different measures that are available for applicants to choose from. And I just wanted to point out that the most cost-effective of which is the water heating package, which costs about $230 to install. And the next REACH code is related to electric vehicle charging, and this requires single-family, newly constructed single-family homes with garages to be EV ready. So EV ready is when you have space on your electrical panel, you have the outlet and the wiring, and an EV owner can plug in the charging cable that comes with their car into that outlet. And the other EV charging REACH code is for non-residential buildings. So this requires when non-residential buildings seeking alteration or addition permits or tenant improvements that have a permit valuation of $500,000 or greater to install level 2 EV charging stations. And so of all of the REACH codes that we readopted, this is the one that has a minor change. So we changed the trigger from what it was before to a $500,000 valuation to match up more with the level of remodel that the applicant is doing to kind of justify requiring these level 2 chargers to be installed. And so the last REACH code that we readopted is related to gray water systems and requires new single-family homes to be pre-plumbed for gray water systems. So that includes dual plumbing and installing a two-way valve for optional or future gray water irrigation. And so under the 2022 building code cycle, there were 2 REACH codes that we did not readopt for the 25 building code cycle because they're awaiting cost effectiveness. So any REACH codes that we adopt that are related to energy efficiency have to be deemed cost effective. So we're still waiting to get those studies for the new building code cycle to show that they're cost effective, and those are for a high performance energy efficiency requirement and our large scale remodel solar requirement. And some of the REACH codes require approval from the California Energy Commission, so anything related to energy efficiency requires CEC approval. And just after the ordinance was adopted by City Council, we submitted our application to the CEC, and we still haven't heard back from the CEC. But after they've approved our ordinance, then the REACH codes related to energy efficiency may be fully enforced. And like I said earlier, under Assembly Bill 130, there does seem to be an opportunity for future REACH codes, and the statewide REACH codes program, which we rely on for identifying and developing all of our REACH codes, has continued to do the work that they're doing, and there's several REACH code opportunities that are coming up, and they're working every day to finalize those cost effectiveness studies. And once those are finalized, then we'll seek input from the Environmental Commission and City Council for consideration of adopting any future REACH codes. And I wanted to cover how we implement these. So the Climate Action Plan checklist is the way that we implement all of our REACH codes. And so when an applicant is seeking a building permit, they're required to complete the CAP checklist. And as you can see on the image, the first box they see is they'll find their project type on there, and then it tells them what required section to do. So new construction is sections 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. And then they would go and fill that out and, basically demonstrate that they're going to comply with the REACH codes that are identified in those sections. And then after the CAP checklist is complete by the applicant, they have to include it on their project plan set. And then a city plan reviewer will review their checklist and ensure that it was accurately complete. And if there's any corrections, the applicant won't pass review, and the reviewer will let them know what corrections need to be made. And after all corrections have been made, not just related to the CAP checklist, building permit is issued, and then construction may begin on the project. And throughout construction of the project, there's up to 3 CAP inspections that take place. And this is to, again, verify that the applicant is doing what they said they would do on the checklist and is fully implementing our REACH codes and municipal code. And the building inspector goes out to the field, and they ensure that what they're seeing on the project plans is what is matching up at the site. And if there's any corrections, they can issue a correction, ensure everything gets installed. And then throughout the process, issuance or final of the permit, myself and the permit technicians are doing data tracking to ensure, see how we're implementing the REACH codes, and working to eventually prepare the CAP annual monitoring report and see how we're making progress on our CAP goals. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Really great explanation. Thank you so much. It was really clear. Great work. Anyone have any questions for Ryan?
Yeah, I have questions. I was a little confused by the new AB 130 is not allowing any new REACH codes on residential buildings. Is it any new or any at all REACH codes?
Yeah, so it wouldn't allow for us to adopt any REACH codes after the October 1st, 2025 date, unless we are utilizing one of the exceptions that's in there. So it doesn't, one of the conditions is if it's substantially equivalent to something that we had previously adopted. So does that make sense? So if we had already adopted this REACH code under this law, we can adopt it after the October 1st date. So, yeah.
So what the council did September 25th is just, I'm sorry, I don't remember the word you used, reactivate or the reach codes? So that we're having the same reach codes?
Yeah, readopting all of them.
Readopting?
Hmm.
And why was that necessary? Do they have a end date?
Yeah, that's a great point. So the statewide building code is in a 3-year cycle. So the last update was January 1st, 2023. And so the current update was on January 1st, 2026 this year. And so the we would have had to readopt our reach codes regardless of AB 130. It just ended up, kind of being around the same timeline that we would have readopted them anyway. So that was something that we would have had to do regardless of the state law.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're basically keeping the status quo for the reach codes for both single-family and multifamily residential units?
Yeah, I would say the answer to that is yes. So what we readopted this time around due to AB 130 was essentially the same reach codes that we already had, with the exception where Ryan explained that the non-residential EV charging station requirement, we changed the threshold for that to a $500,000 valuation. So that's one was slightly modified, but council approved it. They were okay with it. And then the other two that weren't able to be readopted were the ones that still need their cost effectiveness studies to be completed. So those are at this point on hold, but we can take a look at readopting those once those studies are completed.
How can we readopt them?
How can we?
Yeah, because
So
I thought
yeah.
it was past October 1st.
Yeah, good question. So we should be able to use those exceptions that are outlined in AB 130 to be able to readopt them. So one of the exceptions, like Ryan pointed out, is that if that reach code is substantially similar to a previous reach code you had in a previous code cycle, then you could readopt it. Another exception, I think it said something along the lines, if your city has some sort of a greenhouse gas emissions plan, which we do, we have a climate action plan that dictates that these reach codes should be adopted, then that's another reason why we could adopt a reach code based on the AB 130 exceptions.
Okay. And could you just please remind us the two ones that are going through the cost effectiveness?
Yeah, so that's the high performance energy efficiency reach code that was adopted in 2024 following the Berkeley ruling, and it is basically requires a higher level of energy efficiency for new construction than required by the state. It's intended to incentivize without requiring all electric construction. And then the other one is for a pretty substantial, like $1 million valuation or more, remodel to a multifamily or non-residential building. They'd be required to install a solar PV system. So those are the two that we had previously adopted, still awaiting cost effectiveness.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I just had one related question. Do those cost effectiveness studies, are they happening because of AB 130 or would they be happening regardless?
They would have been happening regardless because that's a requirement of the Energy Commission to adopt any energy-related reach codes, is they have to be cost-effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And they were deemed cost-effective the first time. So
Yes.
do we expect them to remain cost-effective, basically?
Yeah, and it's kind of tricky, especially for the high-performance one, because the energy code, like I said, is updated every 3 years. This year was a pretty big update for the energy code in the way that it looks at energy consumption. So they're just kind of having to redo a lot of the work that they did in the previous cycle when they found it to be cost effective. So it's coming and it's likely going to be deemed to be cost effective again. But
Okay.
yeah.
It's just kind of scary because without that, we don't have a path to all electric buildings, more or residential buildings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what would be Plan B?
Yeah,
guess?
I will say that with the 2025 statewide building code update, the baseline is now that you install a heat pump water heater and a heat pump HVAC system for all new construction. So it's the statewide code alone is pushing that a lot. You know, the only two appliances that are left to be electrified would be the induction cooktop be the cooktop and then the clothes dryer. So developers may decide that I already have to install this heat pump water heater and HVAC. I might as well just make it all electric anyway instead of including gas plumbing. So I would say that's the next pathway, is that the state keeps leapfrogging our REACH codes, which is good because it's making the whole state, you know, go more towards decarbonized buildings. So that would be the alternative. Yeah.
Any other questions? Great, thank you so much, Ryan.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, looks like we have our action item is just the work plan update and the commission calendar.
Okay, thank you, Chair Kramer. I will, as I typically do, I'll go over your monthly updates for the work plan. Let me make this a size that you can actually see. That's pretty good. Okay. All right, so and as I typically do, I'll only cover the projects that actually have updates, but feel free to chime in at any point and add updates to any of the projects that we go through. So for the Environmental Awards Program, the subcommittee is working on a press release to announce the nomination period for the award. And then also the subcommittee actually just this past Monday spoke at the Commission for the Arts and talked about whether the Arts Commission was interested in collaborating with the Environmental Commission to create or have a commission an artist to create the award. Do any of the subcommittee members want to elaborate on that, Robert?
Sure, I can talk a little bit. So, I basically presented to the Arts Commission that we do the yearly environmental awards, and part of that, the original plan was to have local artists do, design and create and produce the art that would be the award that we hand out. So I tried to basically encourage them, to highlight that it's a big opportunity for local artists, and it would, aligns the arts with the Environmental Commission, which, I think is really good for the city of Encinitas and good for both commissions. So I'm tried to make it an opportunity for them. And they seem pretty receptive, I think, to the idea. They've agreed that they will meet with us to form a joint subcommittee for both commissions, and then we'll, they'll kind of handle the art side of it, and we're going to handle the scheduled budget and logistics side of it. So, I think it's very encouraging, finally fulfill the wish of Jim Wang when he started the award 10 years ago. So,
does it feel like this year it could come to fruition, or would it be?
I didn't put a deadline on the presentation, so we're going to meet and see what's possible. The selection of the artists is up to them, I think. It could be a competition, or it could be they select someone who does artwork that would kind of be appropriate for what we're trying to do. So I think we got to define the scope and then see if we think we can make it done this year. There's some idea that we could delay maybe the presentation from April to later in the year to make that work, but I don't know. The subcommittee's gonna have to work it, because I think it's appropriate to have the awards early in the year because it's rewarding last year's award, right? So like this year's award would be for 2025. So if you delay it too much, it's kind of like too far in the past. So we'll see, but that is a goal to do it as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Robert.
Okay, so moving along, The next thing I'll update you on is the native plant policy. So a joint public hearing, as you know, was held with the Environmental Commission and the Urban Forest Advisory Committee. That was held on November 4th of last year. And you all discussed and provided comments on the draft native plant ordinance to staff. And then the next step will be to present the native plant ordinance to the Planning Commission. And then from there, it'll go to council for consideration.
Crystal, this might be the appropriate time to ask this question because I don't see the mature tree ordinance isn't really on our agenda, but I think it kind of falls more within the native plant policy, maybe.
Sure, yeah, you could bring it up now. That's a good time. You're right. It's kind of wasn't specifically stated on your work plan, but I think it's probably the closest tie is the native plant policy. Yeah, so do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I had more of a question, and I
Sure.
guess I can update those commissioners that weren't there at the joint meeting, but we did have a joint meeting with the Urban Forest Advisory Committee to kind of discuss the changes that staff had made to the mature tree ordinance based on public input and analyses by city staff members. And so it was just a back and forth, a brainstorming, a discussion to get it on the public record for kind of the different forms that ordinance can take and sort of how much teeth it had in terms of kind of having some sticks to prevent the removal of mature trees for new developments and how much we wanted to have carrots versus sticks. And so there's a long discussion, and that's was all recorded. So if you want to watch that long meeting, for those of you that weren't there, you're welcome to. And then that was kicked to the Planning Commission next and so that was a question I had for you. I think the Planning Commission did, that was brought to them, and they had a special meeting that was during our last meeting time, right, in December, which is why we didn't have our meeting.
I believe so.
Do you have an
Yeah,
update on
that's
that?
correct. I don't have an update, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
But I can get you an update between now and your next meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch that meeting, but I was curious about it. And so then the native plant ordinance, that has not been brought to the Planning Commission yet then?
As far as I understand, it has not yet, but it's headed there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, so the next item with an update is the Climate Action Plan update. So for this one, the consultant is still currently working on the benefit cost analysis, and city staff is planning to have that completed along with the CAP update itself and bring that to Environmental Commission one more time and then to City Council sometime in the spring. So you all have already seen the draft of the Climate Action Plan update. That was something you saw last spring. And so what we'll share with you this time is the benefit cost analysis and then kind of a refresher of the CAP itself. And then it'll go to council after that. And then next is, I think that might be it. That wraps up the summary, but feel free to bring up any other projects that I haven't mentioned that you might have updates on or want to check in on.
I had a question. So we had been working on I can't even remember what it's called.
The environmentally friendly purchasing policy,
Yes,
is that
that
what
one.
I'm reading your mind over
you.
here.
And, I think we were waiting you were busy with the CAP stuff. So when do
Yeah.
you think we might revisit that to close that one out?
Yeah, let me see if I can find that one. There it is, number 12. So staff has been working on this. I will say I wanted to be farther along than we are at this point, but we have been reviewing the policy and put together kind of a spreadsheet of which departments, divisions are responsible for what parts of the policy. And so we're working on, we now need to coordinate with those departments and let them know if they're not already doing so. We have a feeling that a lot of what's in the policy is already being done, but we want to communicate with those departments to make sure that they're aware of the policy, make sure that they're implementing the requirements, and then also start tracking those requirements as well. We still do hope to kind of look back in the past at the 2025 calendar year and see if we can put together an annual report for that year, which is one of the things that the policy requires. So yeah, just kind of the short answer is staff is still kind of doing our part to make sure that we're fulfilling the requirements of the policy and checking in with all the other departments to ensure that that's happening. And then we'll bring that an update back to you. And then once we have that annual report, it can kind of further help you evaluate the policy, because that was the original intent of the work plan item, was to take a look at the policy, see if it needs to be updated, revised, refreshed. And so hopefully that additional information will give you more to go on.
Okay, because I thought, we had this whole list of comments that we were going to make an agenda item, but then and then present, hey, here's a lot of updates. This thing is in need of some revisions since it's been written, I don't know, however long ago it was.
Yeah.
But then I recall that, you were busy with the cap stuff, so we were holding off on that. But should we, if the
I
cap
would
is
say-
closing this spring, should we revisit our recommendations?
I would say it might be beneficial to kind of see where staff is at with implementing the policy as it is now to help
Okay.
inform your comments. I think you had some great comments initially. I know we had some subcommittee meetings that I was helping you out on, and we talked about. But I think I feel like knowing that information might help you kind of clarify some of what your comments are.
Okay.
Identify sections of the policy that are effective and where we could find improvements. And then once we've got a better refinement of that, then you could take your recommendations back more formally to the Environmental Commission
Okay.
with a agenda report and discussion and all that.
You don't think it's helpful to have them, as they are getting this report together, to see those before that?
I do feel like knowing kind of how staff has been implementing the policy will help you refine your comments.
Okay.
But if you wanted to offer comments now and have a discussion, then you could do that. But I think you'd have better information with the stuff that staff is working on now.
Okay.
Yeah. We can talk more offline
Yeah,
if you'd like.
maybe
And
we will.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a question on the overall work plan. I think we're in our second year. It's a 2-year plan. When's
Yes.
the date when we reevaluate?
Yeah, really good question. Can we cover that when we get to the calendar? But yeah, that's a really good point. It is coming up, so it's something that the commission should maybe start thinking about. Yeah.
I had a question about the zero waste,
Okay.
outreach and education. And first, Carol, did you have any updates on that? I know that you had been speaking with Paul, but I also wondered if maybe it would be a good idea to have Paul Meckler come and maybe give us an update. It seems like there are a lot of things have happened since he last spoke to us, and I think it was June of last year. But yeah.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, I could see if he's available to come to your. I will say your next meeting might be a little heavy. There's a couple of pretty beefy items that I'm anticipating for your next meeting, but maybe a future meeting after that. Yeah. Your next meeting, most likely, you'll be hearing the climate action plan that I just mentioned,
Okay.
and then. The other one is the resource management element is getting teed up for you as well.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think we met with Paul, and Crystal, you were there, right? When we met with Paul since October. I'm sorry? No, Paul Meckler, who's the solid waste,
Yeah.
zero waste
Yeah.
staff in Public Works. So I think we had that meeting since the last.
Yeah, it was, what the record shows here is that he came to your June meeting. Was it more recent than that? Is that what you're thinking?
We've had
No,
some
I think it happened
subcommittee
since-
meetings. Yeah, we've had some,
Since October,
we've had a couple subcommittee meetings with him over Zoom.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there was the tool kit that came out.
Right.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
zero waste tool. So that would kind of just be nice to have those updates in there.
Yeah, okay. Why don't, before the next monthly update, why don't we get together and make sure that we have this one updated?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's
Sounds
on the
good.
city website, there is this tool that's associated with like the cost
Okay.
effectiveness.
Yeah,
of
that's right.
switching,
I
yeah.
remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Great, yeah,
I-
let's make sure
I have it
that-
down as October 30th
October 30th? Okay,
that we met with them.
30th. Okay. Okay, so before the next monthly work plan update, I'll just make sure that I connect with Katie and Carol so that we have an accurate representation for item 8.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
perfect. All right, anything else? Okay,
Oh,
great.
I did have one question. Mark, have you heard anything about San Onofre lately?
I've seen a lot of political pushing back and forth with some of our local electeds trying to get
Same here.
something done, but nothing concrete.
Okay, I'll make a look.
I thought they had announced when they're actually taking down the 2 domes.
Yeah, that might be something that you can get. But the latest thing, the push is there'd been a moratorium on being able to take spent nuclear fuel and reducing it down to a different use. I guess it was, they didn't want you to be able to do something with it and make it more atomic bombish. So there's a push to make it to where organizations can take the spent fuel and do something else with it at a lower radiation level that's beneficial, but it won't be encapsulated on the beach at San Onofre when they do that. So that's the latest push I've heard, but
I kind of read something like that. I'll take a note. We'll have an update at the next one.
yep.
All right, anything else? Okay, so we can jump over to the calendar now. And this is where we can have that discussion about when we get started on the work plan. So we're here in January, February, and that's when the subcommittee on the environmental awards program will be hard at work. So this is when you initiate the program by putting out that press release and then soliciting for the nominees. And then also now coordinating with the Arts Commission to see if you can get something together for commissioning that art piece for the award. And then also in January and February is when council will interview the Environmental Commission applicants for the vacant spot. There will be 2 positions, I believe. So it'll be the current vacant position, and then I believe it's Commissioner Parker's position that's up for renewal. Or you don't need to share now if you don't want, if you reapplied or not, but that's the other position is yours. All right, now in March is when those new terms would begin, the 2 new terms. And then that's also when you would select a new chair and vice chair for their 1-year term. And then also on previous calendars, I had identifying the subcommittee in April, but I do feel like just giving you all an extra month to work on the work plan would be beneficial. So I'm suggesting that you establish that subcommittee to initiate the work plan update in March. And then ultimately it needs to be adopted by council before the end of the fiscal year. So you would either do that in May, April, or it should go to your commission first, right, to get approved. And then in May or June, it could go to council for approval, for final approval. And so then we can probably just stop there without having to go the full calendar year. But did you want to talk about the work plan, Mark?
I was just curious. That was all.
Okay, yeah.
That all.
Okay,
Time frame is
great.
fine. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll make sure there's an item on your March agenda to select the subcommittee for that work plan update.
And so things like taking it back to a 1-year or 2-year work plan can come out of those meetings, right?
Yeah, I would like to lean towards a 2-year. I think that is helpful, at least for staff, for not having to kind of redo these so frequently. I think the cadence has been working well, but you could definitely discuss that. Yeah. Okay, so that wraps up the calendar. Whoops. And then that wraps up the item. So if you'd like to, actually, I don't think we need to vote on this. Or do we vote? Sorry.
On the work plan, I think just on the
Yeah,
work
but just on the work plan. That's where I get confused. Yeah, so if you'd like to vote to approve the work plan updates, that would be great.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we had some recommendations for adding things to the work plan. Does that need to be stated or like in part of our recommendation?
So the one that I recall talking about was on item 8, we would just get together and make sure that the next month's is correctly updated. Are you okay with that, or do
Yep,
you?
that
okay.
sounds fine. Yeah,
Okay.
just for next month, that's
Yeah.
fine. Okay, I would make a motion to approve the work plan update.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, thank you, Crystal.
Great.
Okay, it looks like we have no commissioner-initiated action agenda items. Any updates on items of interest?
I've got one. Street Stewards is going to have its monthly cleanup on the 17th, Saturday at 8:30 at Moonlight Beach, and it happens to coincide with the Surf Riders Beach cleanup. So both groups will kind of be meeting in the same area, and one hitting the beach and the other doing the 101 in Encinitas Boulevard area. So it'll be kind of a neat collaboration there, finding like-minded people.
Great. Any other updates? Yeah, I think JP had an update, but we can maybe wait until 11. I don't know if it's like actually something that's going to be an agenda item, or do you want to talk about it now? Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if it matters.
So I guess for the folks that haven't been on the email chain and following, the federal administration has opened up all of California's waters to offshore oil drilling, which was also proposed back in 2018. And in 2018, I believe, was the year that Encinitas adopted an ordinance officially opposing new offshore oil drilling. So there is an open comment period now for this new 5-year plan, which again opens up all of California to new oil drilling. And what Carol and I have talked about trying to do is get the city to submit an official comment again in opposition to this new plan. We, of course, still have our ordinance, which stands, but it is technically for the previous 5-year plan. So what I've been told from groups who would potentially litigate should this move forward is that our ordinance from 2018 couldn't be used, and we're not specifically stating to BOEM, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, that Encinitas opposes this specific plan. So what we've been trying to figure out is how we can either readopt, I guess, the ordinance or submit that same ordinance to the form it basically needs to go to BOEM. And Crystal connected us with, I think his name is Mike. And perhaps that's our next step, as you suggested, right?
Yeah, our new assistant city manager manages our legislative program, and there is an item within the legislative program that is specific to opposing offshore oil drilling. And so there is a nexus for council to have staff prepare a letter or a comment or even an updated resolution or ordinance if that's so desired. From what I understand from our assistant city manager, that direction would need to still come from council to do so, and he hasn't received yet that direction. So I think it was brought up to council at a prior council meeting in a comment, and the result of that wasn't a request from the mayor to pursue that and bring it to council. So as it stands now, what I would recommend is to continue to coordinate with the assistant city manager that works on the legislative program. You could also communicate directly with the council members via email, obviously individually, but reach out to the mayor and or any of the council members and see if there's any interest to bring this to council. And that may be an avenue to garner some interest as well.
So it wasn't one of us that made the suggestion to council in person?
I was not at that
okay.
meeting.
Okay.
Oh, maybe was it you, Carol? Yeah.
Okay, and so then there was a direct ask at that point for them to redo the
So they, at the
2018 one?
time, so I went to the city council meeting before the break, and because at the city council meeting, they did have on the agenda in, what is it called, the consent calendar, that they had approved, or they had given their name to the Mike Levin bill that is up, that would ban offshore oil rigs. But that is very much of a separate issue than the present administration putting out these new oil lease proposals. So what I think is really important for everybody to go to the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, it's the BOEM, and put in a public comment. So individually, everyone can put in a public comment against these offshore oil rigs. And then, but I think it's also really important that we get our city to do the same, because I think as a coastal city with lots of tourism and lots of people with lots of property values, any sort of oil rig or offshore oil rig would be awful, and also to have any oil spill would be awful. And so I think it's really important that as a city, we try to do something. And as a council, as a commission, that, individuals on the commission tried to get as many people to put in comments on the BOEM website. You can also go JP has another suggestion in terms of going where to find putting in public comment.
Yeah, I mean, the BOEM website's a little obscure, but it's all over Surfrider Foundation and Oceana's website, so it might be easier to find the links there.
Yeah.
Is part of the problem that the closing date for comments is rather coming
Yeah,
quickly?
the date is the January 23rd, and the next council meeting is the 21st.
So if we could get the council to put it on the agenda to just make even a letter to say they don't want any oil rigs, and they could vote on it on the January 21st meeting, they would make it into the January 23rd deadline, and so that would work. So we still have time to put pressure on the city council.
So it's nothing that this body has time to do through our normal meeting processes to do that before the 23rd? It sounds more like we need to have a champion off this council to approach a council member or mayor directly and ask them to do some type of a comment letter, simple letter up to a resolution, and have that meeting before the 21st, apparently.
Yeah, that was an accurate summary.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, so yeah, if you wanted to, since your commission won't meet again before the 23rd, if you'd like to individually reach out to the council members or the mayor to see if there's interest to put it on their January 21st deadline, or sorry, not deadline, meeting. So there's a possibility that we could do something like a letter, or otherwise, a letter would probably be the simplest at this point. And then that could get done by the 23rd, if that's of interest by the council.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, any future commissioner-initiated agenda items? Okay, with that, thanks, everyone. We'll adjourn.